Welcome to the Authentic Change Podcast. I'm Mike Horn, your host, and this podcast is for leaders and coaches who need and want fresh perspectives on what it means to live and to lead authentically. You're a leader who wants to make a difference, but sometimes you feel stuck. You know there's more to life and to leadership than what you're currently experiencing. It can be tough to figure out how to grow as a leader. You might be reading all the blogs and books, but it still feels like you're not making progress. You might even be feeling like you're doing everything wrong. On Authentic Change with Mike Horn, we interview experts who share their insights on how to live and lead authentically. Our guests are trendsetters in building great leaders, teams, and organizations. We provide fresh perspectives on what it means to live with purpose and authenticity. Welcome to this episode of the Authentic Change Podcast. Welcome to this episode of the Authentic Change Podcast. I am absolutely delighted to have in our virtual studio today my longtime colleague, I dare say friend, Dr. Chip Bell. And I met Chip Bell as a youngster growing up in organization development and leadership development. Chip wasn't much older, I'll have everyone know. And Chip today, Dr. Chip Bell has really helped so many companies around the world, all of the Fortune 100, with their innovative customer-centric strategies. And his keynotes, having witnessed and observed several of them, are among some of the best in the world. I've also seen Chip as an up-close and personal teacher and mentor, and he is simply amazing. And he is a world-renowned authority on customer loyalty and service innovation. Global Gurus has ranked him for 8 straight years as one of the top 10 keynote speakers in the world on customer experience. And the most recent ranking that Global Gurus did was in 2022, more than 700 columns. I could go on about Chip and what an amazing individual he is, but let me just say, welcome, Chip. And Chip, could you say a few words about yourself to our audience?
Oh, I'll be delighted to. Mike, it's an honor to be with you, and we always have a lot of fun. So I've been looking forward to this for a long time. But yes, I am, as you indicated in that beautiful introduction, passionate about customers and creating organizations that deliver unique experiences that create what I call customers who are view the experience as profoundly remarkable. That means it's so touching, so profound, they can't wait to remark about it. So we can get into that, but that's what I love doing the most, and trying to help organizations invent, design more innovative approaches to the customer, and more importantly, how you create the kind of front line that can deliver that consistently.
And Chip's work in this regard has been featured in so many bestsellers that he's written, including 9.5 Principles of Innovative Service, Wired and Dangerous, How Your Customers Have Changed and What to Do About It, Managing Knock Your Socks Off Service, Customers as Partners, Magnetic Service. But his newest book is Inside Your Customer's Imagination. And it really does give you just these breakthrough ideas and tells the story of how many smart people and smart companies created breakthrough products, services, and solutions. Chip, can you talk a little bit about that book, Inside Your Customer's Imagination?
Sure. I'd love to. I'd love to talk about this because I think it is an untapped resource. We know that most organizations try to find ways to involve the customer, but if you look at the form they take, it's, fill out this survey for us and give us your feedback. That's pretty much the most predominant way in which they look for involving customers. I think it's important to go much deeper and find ways to get the customer to co-create products and services with you. That means their fingerprints are on what you create, not just that they're assessors of it, which they already are, but they actually have some role in helping you design it. Because one of the things that does is, one, it gives you a chance to capture their imagination, their insight, their ideas. But second, you build a much more loyal customer. We felt a lot different about that cake your mama made when you got to lick the beaters. Or had a hand in helping create it. And so I think that's part of it, is the power of inclusion, which is obviously important, not only customers, but employees as well. But I think we create an opportunity for them to bring a sense of insight into things we don't see or know. We get a chance to play in the playground of their aspirations, not just their needs. So I think there's a lot to be said for looking for ways to intimately involve your customer from the get-go, not just as an assessor at the end.
And Chip, I'd love to explore that. Given how you look at things, I believe through an organizational lens, or many ways are through the lens of an organization, certainly through the lens of a customer, through the lens of a leader. But I'm curious about how you bring your organizational lens to your work. One of the things that I think I just heard you say was about surveys and how companies rely on these sort of assessments from customers and miss a step of being able to get people's handprints all involved in things.
Yeah, right.
And there's a lot of that came up in the organization development world. I've worked at some companies where I've led great place to work campaigns for years, and they've made all the lists. And one of the things that started to happen, I noticed, was that everybody would sit around the table and say, "Well, survey says," and I thought, well, we're really not understanding what's going on with the employee experience here if this has become our primary lens. And people would come to me and I said, well, why don't you just get out of your chair and ask people? Might be easier than asking the survey expert about something.
This is not hard. This is not hard at all.
Yeah, right. And so I'm wondering, it sounds like you bring that lens of getting people to connect with one another in their work, and you do it with customers, I suppose.
Yes, absolutely. And I do it with organizations and helping them how they do it with customers as well. And as I've always said, the brilliance is at the front line. I mean, they know, they hear it, they understand it. And sometimes leaders forget that they need to tap the expertise and brilliance of the front line by asking them, what are you hearing? What are they saying? What are they bitching about? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But what it does is the more you have a CEO willing to sit with a person in a contact center or ride with somebody in the front line, the more you ask them about their experience and what they hear from customers, the more they listen, because they know you're going to be asking. So they are much more attentive to, hey, listen, I hadn't heard that one for a while. And so they become scouts for you and not just ambassadors for you. And I think that role of the scout is so critical. But the scouts only, as I say, if you were the captain of a fort in the Old West and you sent a scout out and they're gone for 3 days and they come back all wide-eyed, you probably would listen to them. You probably wouldn't say, I got to go to a meeting. And I think the more we pay attention to that scout and recognize their expertise, the more that they hear, they pay attention to, because all of a sudden it's valued in a much more profound way. And I think the other side to this is how we ask the customer. What do we look for in our customers? So many times the line of questioning that we have for customers is all around their experience. And as I said, sometimes I think you learn a lot when you ask about their hopes and aspirations, what I call dreamer questions. Their hopes and aspirations, not just their needs and expectations. I mean, we need to know about their needs and expectations, but that focuses on the moment. That may be an opportunity for you to do a quick fix. But when you talk about what would you like us to do that nobody does, now you're opening up a different kind of window into the customer's imagination. And I'll give you a quick example. I was working with a pizza delivery company. If I name the name, you'd know it. But it's one of the largest pizza delivery companies in America. And I was doing focus groups on behalf of the company with a group of customers. And, I got tired. I got frankly bored of asking about the usual product, price, process. Your pizza doesn't taste good. It costs too much and takes too long to get here. Those are the usual kind of questions.
Sure.
And so I asked, what's something that this company could do that nobody else does? And I had one of the individuals in one of the focus groups that says, what about the box? And I said, the box? Yeah. Y'all don't ever do anything with the box. I get a pizza and I take it out of the box and I throw the box away. What about the box? And I go, well, what would you envision doing? Well, you could make a puzzle out of it. My kids love to take the inside of that box and do a puzzle and color and mask for Halloween. And they started rattling off all kind of cool things. Sure enough, a few years later, I'm working with a major paper company that manufactured packages for this particular company. And lo and behold, there was that idea. And what they had done is simply put a Where's Waldo kind of puzzle coloring thing on the back and simply put a sheet of wax paper between the lid and the pizza. So when you finished your pizza, you had a toy if you chose to. But again, it's the customers thinking that way. And that only comes by inviting them to dream with you beyond just the usual needs and expectations. So I think some of it is getting it the right source, like the front line, and some of it is getting the right substance, like the questions you ask.
Chip, I often think, and maybe that's what you're surfacing here, is that one of the greatest gifts that you brought to that situation was your ability to help uncover a need or an expectation, going beyond the rote, questions around process or price or product. And I wonder how that translates. I think about some of your early successful books, Managers as Mentors, for one, through a number of editions. And how does that work translate into what, the last titles that you've written, the last several titles that you've written relative to customers? What's the bridge there?
I think it's fundamentally, it's all about curiosity. If I said, okay, let's get it down to the really core, it's about curiosity. Because whether you're acting as a mentor, what you're trying to instill in a protege or a mentee is you're trying to heighten their curiosity about what might be and learning. You're trying to get them excited about learning. And much the same way, I think when you're thinking about the customer and delivering innovative service, it's all about curiosity. It's all about learning more. And so, and to me, when I look at an organization, I go, okay, is this an organization that values curiosity, that is always learning, that's always looking at what's around the corner, that's encouraging people to experiment, to try, to take risks? All of those features, I think we find associated with great service, particularly the kind of service I talk about, which is what I label value unique, not value added. Value added is taking what your customer expects and adding more. And that's great. Generosity is wonderful, but you run out of room pretty quick because every time you increase what you add to it, their expectations go higher and higher and higher. And so you can't just keep that up. Value unique is delivering something the customer didn't expect. I mean, it's something out of the ordinary, something ingenious, something unique, something creative. And there's a limit to generosity, but there's no limit to ingenuity. And so, but if you look at those organizations that are delivering innovative service, that are trying, hey, what if we did this? What if we tried this? What if we piloted this? Underneath all of that is a driving sense of curiosity and a willing to take risks to learn. And so, to me, it winds up being the core of what you and I are all about. Is all about helping people grow.
My mother always said that expression, curiosity killed the cat, satisfaction brought him back. And
I always say the curiosity may kill the cat, but what a way to go.
That's right. So how do you turn on that curiosity? Or, I mean, what are some of the ways that curiosity gets turned on? I can see the need for profitability to maximize sales. Sure. I mean, in the commercial context, what do you think some of the triggers are?
I think to me, it's getting people turned on about who you are, not what you do. It's getting people excited about your purpose. And we all know purpose-driven organizations tend to be much more successful and last a long time. But I think it's all about that, so that people they're finding a sense of soul in the work that they do. And I think, to me, that's part of the tool for getting them excited and about being curious, is why you here and what this is all about, who you are when you're working, how does it feel? And so it's finding a wholeness in the life that you leave at work. And so, what do we do to facilitate that sense of wholeness and it's a sense of character. The most important part about curiosity is that it's done in a sense of, as you write about integrity by design. It's all about bringing a sense of character and honesty to what we do and how we do it, and promoting that. And so, I did a lot of work with some of the most, what I would call, innovative companies, and I'll give you an example. I did work with the Skunk Works division of Lockheed Martin in Palmdale, and these are the people. I asked one of the generals I was working with, who was working there. I said, "What do you do?" And he uses the usual, if I told you I had to kill you kind of thing.
Right.
But he said, "Did you see Star Wars?" And I said, "Yes, I did." He said, "Well, that's what we do. What we're working on is air defense 30 years from now." And I said, "Well, oh boy, that would take a lot of really amazing kind of innovation. What is it that you do?" And he was a senior leader for this particular division. What is it that you do that helps foster that? Because you're required to be innovative to do what you're doing, and then think 30 years out. And he said, "Well, we do everything in our power to make people feel okay to make mistakes. It's okay to take a risk and make mistakes. You're not going to get chastised. If we get good people who are focused on doing the right thing, if things go wrong, they made a mistake and they learn from it." And so it's creating this, Drucker. We were told years and years ago from all the quality research, Deming said, drive fear out of the workplace. And I think that's what he's saying. In those organizations that feel a sense of character, a sense of wholeness, I don't have to worry about looking over my shoulder. I don't have to worry about being judged in a negative sort of way. I'm accepted. I'm valued. I'm important. All of those features, I think, created that atmosphere where innovation happens. It emerges. So,
and in today's terms, psychological safety. Amy Edmondson, but many of the same or similar ideas in that regard. I often, related to what you were describing, I often catch myself, talking about my expertise somewhere in a conversation, and I realize all the time how not relevant it is, by the time I'm talking with someone, because by the time, we found each other somewhere, we're on this, great planet, a lot of those questions have been answered already. So,
oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I think I think they also are all in people. What we have to do is try to find a way for them to emerge. It's much like a relationship with a customer. I always say they have this incredible imagination, but we got to remember it's a door open from the inside. And so, I got to create a kind of relationship with a customer where they go, "Oh, let me tell you this cool idea I had." Well, they've opened the door.
Right.
So what do I do to create a kind of relationship that makes them feel safe to open that door, to say, "I got this crazy half-baked idea, off the wall, weird kind of idea, and it's okay to talk about it." So it's fundamentally a really pure partnership in terms of that relationship that causes that to occur. And so the book, Inside Your Customer's Imagination, is how do you do that? How do you create that kind of relationship so that you are encouraging, fostering them to open the door to give you access to their imagination? So that's
super powerful work.
It is. It's important work.
Yeah. And Chip, in a lot of the work or the folks that I follow, we talk about the use of self and how to use yourself in order to effectively help people, to help teams, and to help organizations. In some ways, it seems like you're talking about the same thing. It's how you show up. And how you use yourself in all of these circumstances. And for you, what's driven that? As we think about, the authentic Chip Bell, and this amazing career that you've had, where you've influenced probably hundreds of thousands of people around the globe, doing amazing things, affecting lots of folks. What's driven you, Chip? Your curiosity, I would say, but
I think part of it is I got lucky. I had a childhood that was fairly painless. I mean, that in itself is fortunate. Some people don't have that opportunity. They grow up in a challenging family relationship. I had families who encouraged me to make a difference, to contribute. That was important. But I also had a family that encouraged having fun, finding a sense of joy in what you did. And so I think what I try to do in the work that I do is bring that sense of joy, fun, having a great time. That's why I think it's so important for people to discover what they're passionate about. Because when you're passionate about something, it's not hard to bring that sense of joy because you're doing why you were here, placed on this earth to begin with. But fundamentally, ultimately it's not about you. You're a tool. You're an instrument. It's all about others. It's what you bring to others. So that's the contribution side that you make. So every day I get up and say, today I'm going to make a difference and I'm going to have a blast. I mean, it's those two things. If I'm just having a blast, not making a difference, ultimately the fun comes to an end because it's hollow, it's shallow, it's meaningless. And if I work hard to make a difference, but I'm not having fun, it comes to an end because I can't sustain that from a motivational standpoint. So I think it's bringing those two, and that's what I try to do. And as a good friend of mine told me a long time ago, like when you're doing a keynote, the number one important piece of a keynote is to surrender to your audience. You're there for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think in the same way, when I work with clients, it is to surrender to the client. You're there for them. It's not about me. It's not about, hey, look how good I am. It's not how smart I am. You're there for them. And so it's all about how you try to focus on what they need, what that's important. And again, it's personalizing that sense of curiosity. Only your target is the client, or your target is the audience. You're trying to so it's all about that. And so it's letting go. It's being who you are. It's being free of. And I used to, when I coached people who are just starting out in the keynote speech, oh, what if I make a mistake? I said, good for you. They'll love it.
Right.
Go out there and make a mistake. They'll love it. If you know your stuff and you're having a good time, you screw up, nobody cares.
Right.
Just have a good time.
Right.
So, but it's freeing people to, I think, to live in a way that doesn't have the kind of baggage that causes you to say, oh, what will they think? Oh, I'll worry about that. Or, I'm going to say the wrong thing. Sure you are. Hopefully you aren't making mistakes. You aren't growing, you aren't improving. So I think to me, it's bringing that kind of element, that sort of genuine, this is who I am, take it or leave it. I'm happy with it. I'm always trying to get better, those kind of things to the audience or to your client or to whomever in your relationship.
Yeah. Bill, you are one of these amazing individuals who has more than successfully navigated both the world of speaking and the world of writing. 20 plus books.
Yeah. More than I've read.
And that's an accomplishment. I mean, what's kept that an effective blend for you in terms of, what it takes to put words on paper, as well as to maintain what at times I'm sure, or maybe currently, a grueling travel schedule.
Well, I've got a good support group for that. I've got a great travel agent who's been my travel agent for 30 years. So I'm in good shape on that. My life's not that complicated. It's not hard. I can keep it all straight in a little tiny calendar, and I have great systems that help me not have to focus on minutia and focus on what's important. In terms of the writing, I write all the time. That's one. So I think writers get better with practice. So I've been doing it. And, I know that the sustainability of my career, which I love, hangs on being able to come out with new stuff all the time. I'm always working on the next book. And because one, I get a kick out of it because I learn. And again, I'm driven to learn. And so, but it also pays off in the terms of, I'm not bringing the same old stuff over and over and over, which that brings the end to your professional career, at least in my world.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So anyway, that's so in terms of writing books, books show up. I write them down.
I was wondering about that, thinking about a few of your books, and are they wholly new to that? Are there elements that build on them? So I'm thinking about some of the award-winning books that you've had, Magnetic Service,
Yeah.
Wired and Dangerous, Sprinkles, Kaleidoscope.
Yeah.
Are these building blocks, or how is the transition? Is it novel each time?
It is novel each time. It is novel each time, and that's what's fun about it. And as I say, it sounds weird. It sounds really weird. But for me, I noodle on a book all the time. I'm working stuff out in my head all the time. I'm making little notes on my little notepad all the time. And then at some point, the book just shows up and you just take dictation. And I miss a lot of it because I can't type that fast.
Yeah, sure.
But I mean, that's kind of how they come. I the Kaleidoscope I wrote in a week. Sprinkles I wrote in 2 weeks. They come and they're fast. And again, I've worked on them in my head, but I don't. Sometime, like right now, I'm working on luxury service and trying to find out what's unique about that and what can most organizations learn. If you spend $150 million on a yacht, what kind of customer service do you expect?
Right.
Pretty good, I hope. You're paying $3,000 a night to stay in a hotel. What kind of service do you expect? And those high-end brands often have captured an element that they know their type of customer is often wealthy expects, that I think are things that may be translatable to whatever business you're in. Treat them like royalty is universal. But are there things that we can learn from Rolls-Royce or from
Maserati?
Beverly Hills Hotel, that are usable in a Holiday Inn or usable in a Ford dealership, for example. And I think there are. And so that takes a lot of research, a lot of interviewing to try to figure that out. And it may not go anywhere, but it's fun to play with. So some require a lot of research, but many don't, because a lot of my stuff's story-based and, stories are everywhere.
Yeah, it's as if in a lot of this work, you're describing intimacy that happens, that sparks curiosity, that leads to innovation and growth. And I was just with a client last month in San Jose, and one of the documents they gave me in advance of working with the team for a couple of days was their customer journey map.
Yeah.
And I think, Chip, you had some involvement in those customer journey maps.
I did. My business partner, Ron Gazimka, and I invented it years ago in the early 80s. Yeah. We actually created it, the first one. So back then we called it Cycle of Service and Moments of Truth, but the concept's the same. But
I was surprised to see it in context just a month ago or so.
Yeah. Anyway. But at any rate, we figured it out in the bar, actually. Well, it came from it's an interesting story. We came from we were working with a major phone company at the time. This is years ago, when your phone didn't work. You called up and you had tried to get somebody to come repair your phone line or your phone or whatever. And so what they were getting is the level. They had a lot of turnover in the call center, and the reason why they did exit interviews, what they found is they got tired of dealing with livid customers, not angry customers, just furious customers. And so the CEO goes, something's going on out there that makes the customer feel more furious, not just angry, just livid. What's going on out there? What's causing our turnover in our contact center? So we began to talk to customers and say, talk us through what you go through. And so then we got, and they started telling us, well, no, I don't do that. And then I do that. And then they said that. And then so we just sort of mapped all that out, put it on big old boards and walked in the boardroom and said, here's your answer. And the CEO looked at all these flip chart sheets on the wall that mapped out what the typical customer went through when their phone went out, and said, no wonder they're furious. Look what we put them through. And so that was sort of the beginning to say, okay, what do we need to do at this moment of truth, at this encounter? How do we fix it? So we kept researching it and say, okay, what would you like to happen at this encounter? Well, what pisses you off? That kind of thing. So that was the origin. And we wrote about it in a couple of books. And so, but anyway.
Amazing. And Chip, as you've described, some of the ideas that you're working on with the luxury experience and many of the ideas that you have inside your customer's imagination, I'm wondering what's been the impact of the last few years with the pandemic, now endemic, perhaps, situation on customer experience. It certainly ranges. I think you go into some big box retail, you really wonder how they're surviving with the ability to find staff but what have you observed in the customer experience world relative to the last couple of years from your vantage point?
I think it's elevated the customer's expectation for a village. And so what happened with the COVID and with all of the fact that we had to be more careful than we ever were, it created a sense of dependence on each other, dependence on the community, which it drove us away from crowds, which meant you depended more on sort of villagey kind of, instead of shopping at the big grocery store where they had crowds of people, you tended to go to a niche player and so people developed a sense of, the kind of service that I like is kind of intimate, kind of personal, kind of friendly, kind of like my neighbor. So therefore, when I go to a big box and I don't get that, now my anger is higher. So I think it's elevated the customer's expectation. And so therefore, our experience in a large, understaffed or big box is more severe than it was because our standards are different, because we've seen how it happened in the village, so to speak. So what it says for me, first of all, is that I would say the big organizations are going to have a rocky road ahead. And I would say the small, villagey kind of niche player, while they may not have the economies of scale, may have the tools to be more successful than they ever were. So, I'm seeing a return to more of that kind of, I don't know if I want to do work with a bank that doesn't know me. I don't know if I want to work with a car dealership that doesn't remember me. I don't think I want that. So we're seeing, I think, more of that kind of old fashioned. We even see it and I'm working with some organizations around the whole area of chatbots and AI and how we used all of that in the customer contact area. And there's a certain level of convenience that we find in some of that, but then they go, I don't want to talk to a computer. I want a human. I need somebody more than I ever had before. I was willing to put up with that. Now I'm not. I want it for certain things. So the contact center will never be, in my view, replaced with. We can minimize all of that. Maybe we'll get AI to such a point you won't even know that you're not talking to a person. I can envision that. But the feel of the person, the feel of the human connection is I think going to increase in importance.
And two, what about the impact of social media on so many businesses? In terms of being able to make reputations, build reputations, enhance them, to track from them. How have you seen that affect customer experience as well?
I think it's going to be here for a while. But what we're seeing is, I don't know. I recently saw the statistics on young people in Facebook and young people in some of the other. They like TikTok, but Facebook's declined in the younger teenage years. I think, okay, where does that go? What does that look like? What does that mean? Why? What is going on? What is it about TikTok that they don't like Facebook or don't like Twitter? Twitter's declining. Instagram's kind of flat, but so I think we're seeing kind of a renaissance in the kind of social media that's more experiential, more personal, more intimate, and less same old. So if there was ever a place for innovative service, it'd be in that realm. But I think social media in general, is going to be here for a long time. I know, for example, in my marketing, like you probably experienced in marketing books, is that whole blend of, what's moving the needle. You got more focus on LinkedIn than Facebook, and you got more focus on video and not just still shots, and you got more, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you're seeing it come around to be more, give me something experiential, give me something that's thought-provoking, but still touches me in a special kind of way.
Amazing. And who better to have the guidance on customer experience and what's emerging than Dr. Chip Bell, who writes deeply, profoundly, widely on these topics, encourages and inspires people to their greatness in organizations, to bring that innovative spark, and helps us decode what it means to be great be great, more simply be great.
Yeah.
And to the extent that we direct that to creating our life not in parallel with others, but in connection with others, and really seeing what that sparks for us, so that we bring our passion and have fun. I think the mottos of Chip Bell in many ways.
Right.
Chip, you've talked about luxury service, and I'm just curious about, as we begin to think about wrapping up, what else is next on your plate? What else do you have in your idea pots?
Gee, I have no clue. That's what's fun about it. Life for me is an adventure. And so, it's always a treasure hunt. And so I have no clue what's going to be. I mean, this luxury angle is kind of fun. I've written a few articles on it that have been fun and seems to touch a nerve in people in terms of their response. But, I don't know. I'll play it out, see where it goes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. There'll be another treasure out there to find. So the process is what's fun to me.
Always an inspiration, Dr. Chip Bell. Finding that nugget, finding that gem, polishing that gem, creating happiness for yourself and for others around you. It's just a delight to be in conversation with Chip. Chip, if our audience wanted to get to know more about your speaking,
sure,
about the work that you do, about the books that you've written, and about your current work and the products and services you have, how would they get in touch with you?
Just chipbell.com. That's a website I can remember.
That's nice and easy. chipbell.com. It makes it easy for all of us to remember,
yeah.
Chip.
And I'd love to hear from your listeners, because if you go on my website, the contact place section where it says contact, there's every way you can get a hold of me. It's got my phone number, my email. You don't have to fill out a form if you don't want to. So, I'm easy to reach, easy to access. Come by the house, we'll fix you a cup of coffee or buy you some Jack Daniels or something.
Well, I'll just add to that. Having known Chip probably for 30 years or so, at least. Yeah. This ability, he's legendary in his ability to always make you feel like an insider, to make you feel as if you've never been disconnected. And it's remarkable. So, that. Chip, thank you so much. It just demonstrates your inclusive personality and the ideas that you're bringing and shaping in the world. And all of us are so grateful for your work. So any last word, Chip? I encourage people to get in touch with Chip at chipbell.com. But let Chip have the last word before wrapping up.
Just make every day a masterpiece.
Amazing. Make every day a masterpiece. Dr. Chip Bell, thank you so much. Until the next episode of Authentic Change, stay well.
Thank you for listening to the Authentic Change podcast. I'm delighted that you've tuned in to listen. Please visit the show notes for links to topics discussed in today's podcast. To download a free ebook on authentic change and leadership and to subscribe to my newsletter, please visit mike-horn.com. Once again, mike-horne.com, mike-horn.com. Once again, thank you for listening to the Authentic Change podcast.